Good morning, traders. I'm actually looking at these four charts down here right now. You might find this a little odd. I'm not using bars here. I'm using a dot on close. What I was looking for was a way of not really seeing inside price action, but trying to determine the overall look and feel of what the market was doing. Now, these are just 15-minute charts. But this gives me an idea without seeing all of the volatility within the bar to see just how price is trading. We can see that this whole area right here, from here to here, even if price did come down to the POC here or back down to Vwap in a wick or something, we're still seeing that price isn't closing. Price is not closing below that level right there. Now, I would say this is probably going to take out these highs right here. We're definitely going to get a pull back to the second standard deviation highs on all of these sometime today. I would be doubtful that they just break out and go, but, you know, hey, that's possible. Looks like CL's doing that right now. Came up, VWAP held for about an hour. And now it's looking at breaking up. The problem is VWAP here from last week is just at 51.75. There's going to be a little resistance right here in this area before we can continue to break up. And if we look at that on possibly one of our other charts, you know, it's going to have this whole area right in here would be what I would call support. Yesterday, if we look at this chart over here, we just broke out of, we came up right to where we were expecting to come up, kind of consolidated there, couldn't break down, and now it's breaking up. Now, as we said, we're going to have a little small problem right in that area right there. If it gets above that area right there, where do we expect it to go? We expect it to fill the gap. That's from 12.7, so we have an open gap from last week, I guess, up in this area. Probably fill that and work its way up towards VWAP. What do we got here on the on our profile charts? I'm looking at daily profiles here off 1440 minutes. And I'm just trying to get an idea of what the profiles are doing in comparison historically. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, if I look at NQ here, I look at this week, got an inside day trading below the value area low this day. Signs that price want to stay lower. We have a lower high. The next day we have a lower high. Most of our volume traded below the low. Again, a sign of continued lower. Friday, we had a lower low. We had a higher high to make, let's say, an engulfing type of bar, except for the high of the day was just above the previous day, but yet below the previous day from there. And right at the value area high. So what did we do from the high there? We traded all the way back down. Our POC, our most volume, same. And then where did we close the end of the day? We closed the end of the day around the POC. So we did close a little higher than the previous day because the previous day we closed at our low. But still, this is not a good sign for a recovery, right? Yesterday, we traded back up to the previous day's VWAP, and then we trade below, and we can see that we trade most of the day and even the POC within the value area of the previous day. We make a new lower low. Our value areas are getting lower, 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 somewhat engulfing, but lower, expanding, but still a little lower on the low side than higher on the high side. Now we're contracting a little bit or consolidating here, but we're still trading below the POC, and and within that value area of the previous day, taking out new lows. Now, we're trading all the way up here towards VWAP now. Looks like Friday, Thursday, of last week, we're now trading up and above this area right in here. This could possibly be a turning point. Now, what do I want to see to make sure that this is a turning point? I see that my POC of last Thursday and Friday, and if I look at the whole contract, I don't really want price below my POC. Price gets back down below here, we'll trade back down to the lower end of value. Where could we trade today? Back up to the upper end of value. Let's take a look at these other charts. Where were we looking at? NQ? So NQ is right at last week's VWAP. Excuse me, week before's. This is last week's VWAP up here. I mean, on the upside, this is where we're expecting to go for the day. This is our value area high of the previous 2 weeks. Once we get above the second standard deviation of VWAP, I am extremely careful about fading the market. I use VWAP as a trend indicator for myself. And if I'm above VWAP, I consider the trend being to the upside. Let's just call it a slight uptrend. If we're above the first standard deviation of VWAP and trading higher, and that's holding, I would consider that a little stronger of a trend. But when we're above the second standard deviation or below the second standard deviation, that is a strong trend in one direction or another. And you better be careful. Markets have a tendency to just keep going and going and going. You have to be careful in these situations to fade what that trend is. However you identify trend. Right now, it's we come over to this chart and we can easily see we have a pretty strong uptrend inside this real bad negative down. Now I say we've got a short-term uptrend. All depends on how you define trend. Again, my overall trend on this chart is down. Why do I say that? VWAP. We're trading below. VWAP holds. We come back up to VWAP. VWAP holds. We come back up. It can't even make it to VWAP in these situations. It actually came. This is a third day VWAP. So VWAP from 3 weeks ago. All it can do is come up to the midpoint of that week, and it fails. So we are expecting this area to be to some resistance. Let's just remove all of them. I'm not even sure I like that one right there, because if we get up through this area, there's no volume here really to hold this from coming back all the way back up to this area up here. We got the same situation here. We break above the POC, come up to VWAP. VWAP holds. We're breaking higher. Now I'm saying VWAP. I look at this line and know that this is VWAP week 3. I mean, I color code the lines on my chart, so I don't really need all of these labels over here on the right. I just really have them up there for you. But when you see WVW3, W means weekly, VW means VWAP, 3 means 3 weeks back. Weekly, upper, 2. Previous, anytime you see a P, it's previous. Weekly close. This could be previous daily close depending on what you were looking at. D's daily, W's weekly, C's contract, M's month. So depending on what you're looking at here, those are the abbreviations to be able to tell what you're seeing on the chart. So again, we're you know, all of these indices look pretty much the same. We can see that we have on ES, we can see where we might go. Pull this in here like this. 12.4, 12.5, 12.6 are open highs. 12.5, we've got an open close. This is going to be a lot of resistance to the upside. Last week's VWAP, or even the previous week's VWAP, 2-week VWAPs right in a row, ending up real close to each other up here around 2,700. Once it gets into this area, it will take out whatever the stops are right here. It will take out the stops of the 6, but will it take out all of this area? That's hard to tell. But at least I know where it's going, right? And once it comes up here and it falls back, it's coming to here. I don't expect it below this area right here. All right, everything looks pretty good. What do my days look like? Okay, we drew this out yesterday and said, here up in crude, we've been on a serious downtrend. We drew our trend, right? We broke our trend here on the 3rd. We gapped up, traded, filled that gap in, couldn't break the low of our bar here, and now as long as we can't break this low, or you might even put it at that low instead of that low, as long as we can't break this 49.41, we should be trading back up to the upside. But, you know, these are daily bars. You know, I'm not saying you can't trade either way. We kind of said this yesterday in the indices. We said, well, they looked bad and they were in a world of hurt, and they kind of were. We've got a downtrend, kind of broke it up, kind of for a day said, we're going to go up, and then wow, wham. Okay, now yesterday we said that we had 2 points here on ES and we were looking for a third, and that this could possibly be a third if we trade above it. I'm looking for a close below this line before I look at this just dumping over. Now, where on this chart would you expect it maybe to go today? Well, back up to the POC, 27.27 wouldn't be a bad idea. This is last contracts. I believe this should be the last 2 contracts because I'm loading one on it too. And our value area is expanding to the upside just a little. Not really just too much, right? Our POC hasn't changed at all. Our POC is actually kind of going down a little. You know, here our VWAP kind of went up. Our VWAP is above our POC, so we do have a tendency to think that things might be going up. But I mean, if you would have taken that perspective the last 5 days, and only trade to the upside, you might not have had such a great day. Okay, that still looks pretty good. I don't need that line. Now this we put in here when we had 2 points, thinking that if this held and this would have came down, that would have been a good trend line. I like 3 points in my trend lines, not just 2. I've got one there, and I think I'm just going to keep that. So now that's kind of where we're at, right? Now if we duplicate this, looks like we're probably going to end up being there. But again, I've only got 2 points here. My trend line's not necessarily going to be on the bottom of the bar. I want my trend lines, and now they might be at the bottom of the bar, right? But I really want my trend line to hold the close or the open. But that's kind of the trend. That's kind of where I'm seeing the trend for NQ, down, down, down for the last month, more. I mean, you can see that once it closed below that, once it closed below our POC here, of course, then again, this was all developing the whole time, and you would not have seen that here. That's one of the things with volume profile, right? when the week is done, it's easy to look back and see how price reacted off the levels. The problem of it is those levels aren't necessarily at that place at that time, because those levels are developing through the entire week, right? So this is by the, this line here couldn't have been here. There was no volume that traded down here. None of this could have been there. NQ's already came up to VWAP. YM's on its way to VWAP. ES is on its way to VWAP. This really isn't, from here to here, if you think about it, we haven't really done in ES from 2686 to 2654, almost 30 points. We're really not having done anything. If we go up to 86, yeah, we take out some stops up here above the value area of Friday. But then we come back down here. We haven't really, all we've done is really trade within the value of Thursday and Friday. I'm not showing today's value area because it's all developing. It's not going to be what it is at the end of the day. I don't want to see it on this particular chart. I'm looking at what is the value areas and the POCs and the VWAPs. What are they doing in relation to the previous values? Are they going up or down? Is the POC going up or down? Is the value area going up or down? Where is VWAP in relation to the POC? The VWAP's above the POC. There's a general methodology out there that says that you should be looking at an uptrend. And if VWAP is below the POC, then give tendencies to the downside. But I'm a believer you can trade either